Hey everybody, it's me, Kaylee, here with Number One Leading Ladies podcast. Y'all already know me. We have a cool guest on here today. I'm really excited to have her introduce herself. This is Simone Giangiordano. Hopefully I got that correct. And she's going to introduce herself. I won't do it justice, but as you guys already know, ladies and men that are listening, this is a podcast by women for women where we focus on lifting each other up instead of tearing each other down. So welcome. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Simone. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Kaylee. Yes, I'm Simone Giangiordano, and I go by Simone G to help out with the name. And thank you for having me on here, Kaylee, again. And I work with entrepreneurs who have compromised health or health challenges that's impacting the quality of their life or their ability to take their business where they want to. And the reason this is so near and dear to my heart is I left the corporate world after almost 2 decades due to health challenges, and that was back in 2008. And then I took a little time to focus on my well-being and entered the world of entrepreneurship so I could create a lifestyle that worked better for my well-being and build a business that worked to support my well-being. But I had a lot to learn, so much that I had 3 shutdowns in the first 5 years of my entrepreneurship before I really started getting it right. But I also managed several invisible illnesses and so forth and injuries. So that makes this near and dear to my heart. And once I got the processes down and learned how to build the foundation that's more sustainable for growth and how to build a lifestyle that it just all integrates to support your well-being, then I reopened my business after the 3rd shutdown. Even walked a half a marathon to celebrate my successes. And then I grew my marketing boutique business to 6 figures and had a couple employees. And what happened then, fast forward about 10 years, and in caregiving for my father, that I wanted to be all in. And I like to say my gift to him was being there through the process and caregiving, but his gift to me was the life lesson that all that matters is the impact we have and the love we share. And then that gave me the courage to say, hey, there's more that I want to be doing. I'm tired of trying to hide all these challenges. I want to start to reach out and help others achieve the same successes I have. So back in 2018, I switched positions.
Very cool. So you kind of went very lightly through the whole journey with us. I'm going to ask a little bit more about that because part of this is about going through what does it really take to be an entrepreneur as a woman. From our lens, we have different challenges. We have kids. We have all kinds of different lens on life, if you will. So the first question that I'd like to ask would be kind of going back to your story. What did it take to go from, starting up, for example, typically like for me, I had to put my first business on credit. You can go back and live with mom and dad. There are ways that you actually have to make sacrifices to be able to get to traction. What would you say it took to get going and then finally start seeing that traction on the back end?
Yeah, so to get going, like I said, I initially focused on my well-being, taking time. I took several months pause before I figured out what to start as my business. And I did something that, it's wonderful to think about, hey, the passion-based business or having this big business but sometimes it's better to start from a smaller position. And what I mean by that, is that I knew that the business I was starting was not my passion. But it was, what could I do when I might not be able to work until 2 a.m? And how do I build my business around a very flexible lifestyle as I worked on healing my body? So that was that, coming from a very achievement-oriented personality was challenging to handle at first, but I knew in my heart that it was the best way to go. And that entrepreneurial experience, even if it wasn't what I knew I was going to end up doing, was absolutely invaluable to start to begin your network, start to grow your network, to have those conversations and to learn all the different skills that come with running your own business. So many of the skills are transferable that sometimes it's okay to start with something that's going to help you serve other people, build a small profitable business, and then go from there as your body continues to heal. And as you gain more skills and how to grow a team, then you can transfer into doing more.
So would you say that you had some businesses that, either we win or we learn, right? I don't think that there's
Yes,
a failure. But would you
I
say
agree.
got started that you kind of had to see some businesses learn some big lessons before launching into the second or the third? Like when you've kind of said it before,
Hmm.
that you had to, was it start over or, because as you learn each time, oh, this is what it really takes. Okay, let's not make that mistake again. Let's scale this way better. I guess my question really is, were there times where, a business had to be completely shut down and then a new different one started, or was it taking the same thing and kind of tweaking it?
A combination of both, actually. So what happened was, after the first two, I'll call them mini shutdowns. They were like 3 months each. Um, I was doing well with my business, but I wanted to do better. Sort of the I can do this. So I wanted to work with a sales trainer, and I went and I had an hour-long meeting, and I thought it went great. And keep in mind at the time, I couldn't look up. I could hardly move my neck, my head back and forth. I could hardly use my arms, but I thought I was doing good at the time. And at the end of this meeting, the sales trainer sat me down. He pointed to a poster on the wall that had a triangle on it, mind, body, spirit. And he said, your mind and spirit are great, but until you learn how to manage your health, your body, you're never going to achieve the success you desire. And I was like, wow, I've worked so hard to get to where I am. I want to grow it more. And he's telling me to shut down for 6 months. And that was a hard lesson to take, but I knew in my heart he was right. So I reached out to a peer to make sure my clients were well taken care of. And what I did, I fired all my doctors and I built my own dream team to support me. And that was so so I ended up being shut down for an entire year. But when I came back, my health was so much stronger. I finally had answers. I trusted my intuition a lot more and pushed more for answers. And that enabled me to take my business that was largely support services to a marketing boutique where I offered hands-on training. I opened a small store for 5 miles from downtown Pittsburgh, and I offered hands-on training for email marketing, Facebook, and others, and LinkedIn, and so forth. So I took those business support services where I was doing some marketing and grew them to the position of engaging one-on-one or in very small groups with individuals. And I started coaching individuals on their marketing too.
Oh, wow. That's
So
great.
it transitioned it.
Okay, that's great. And I was going to say, you said shut down for a year. I was like, well, welcome to the whole world. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
those who are listening to this, might have felt some discouragement or might have felt some anxiety or anger or a lot of different things during the last year. But, for me, regardless of kind of what we've all been through, I've lost 3 businesses myself,
Mm.
um, there's lessons to be learned, and sometimes things happen to slow you down on purpose. So
Yes.
instead of fighting it, like I had to be a little bit more receptive and say, okay, well, I can't control this. This is something that's just happening. What can I learn from this? And so, yeah.
I love how you say instead of fighting it, because that has been huge in my transformation, the transformation of the individuals I work with. Because when you have health challenges that are holding you back and you fight them and you try to hide them, they just tend to layer up. You're trying to push through, and then you're wondering why you're having these same setbacks over and over. You build up, setback. And when you accept them and start to build around those, then that's where the real growth starts to happen, because that's how you build that sustainable piece. But you have to accept and even embrace the challenges. That's just part of what makes you unique. And don't worry. I like to say, societal and cultural norms sometimes hold us back more than our own limitations. So it's letting go of what others expect or how others think you should do things and building around what works for you.
It's really cool to hear this from a health perspective, because that's kind of where I've gotten to with business, you know,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you can't force people to do things. You can't change their opinions. Just like stoicism, it's like,
Yeah.
well, I can't change what you think. I can't change how you act. I can't change how you perceive me. So I don't need to worry about it. You know what I mean? And it's kind of the same
Yes.
accept what is. And
Mhm.
a lot of misery, I think, whether it's, health, marriage, business, whatever, it's just that we won't accept what's in front of our freaking face. This is
Denial. And I'm so guilty of it in the past.
all of us.
Yes.
Well,
Hmm.
that is a great, set of lessons that both of us have been through, I think, from learning how to get to traction. Now, what would
Yes.
you say in your journey so far has been your biggest lesson?
It would have to be put your well-being first, because you cannot show up your best for your family, your loved one, your clients, or to really contribute what you're here to contribute to the world without taking care of you. And it is not selfish. It's really necessary. And if I can offer a tip, one of my favorite tips in taking care and putting you first is I call it the power of the pause. And I'll give you a couple, if it's okay, give a couple examples. If I'm going to be working on a development kind of project where I want to be really creative, I will schedule a couple days off. The longer I think I'm going to need, the longer the pause. And I will do critical work only and try to set a couple days that are almost like mini vacation days, and rest, rejuvenate. And then when I sit down to do that project, what I have found is sometimes things that might take me 3 or 4 weeks, I might be able to do in 5 to 7 days. And when you get in that flow, it's always your best work. So it might seem, well, I don't have time. I don't have time to take a pause. I can't do that, but it can save you weeks and give you your best quality work by taking that time. Another, just with mini pauses, is everybody has different kinds of situations. But if you always get tired a certain time of day, or if mornings aren't your jam per se, go ahead and schedule little pauses there. I look at things give you energy or drain you. So you work to bring in those things that give you energy as much as you can, and calendar them.
That is
They're
great.
life changing.
Yeah. Like, for example, I've noticed that when I work out, 9:30 to 10:30, it's like the perfect time, and I'm on, and I like it a lot more. I'm not like
Hmm.
a morning person. I've tried it, forced it. Um,
Yes.
yeah. And then I end up making a lot of mistakes and whatever, because I'm tired, and it's just not,
Not the most productive
yeah.
use of time. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great advice. What would you say in your journey so far? Well, it's part of that, basically self-care that you're mentioning, taking pauses. Where would you rank boundaries in that?
Huge. And I like to look at boundaries from a very self-compassion oriented perspective, that when you take time and actually practice a little self-compassion and realize and everybody has their own challenges, and that includes us, and it's okay that we have our challenges. And then to realize the best way to protect our well-being is to set boundaries. And that includes our business, not just friendships, relationships, and so forth. So for example, the boundary I was not setting at first was on growth of my business. It wasn't just like, oh, needing to say no to individuals, customers. It was taking on too much growth too quickly, with not enough skill set around building a team and so forth. And then I would be working too hard, too many hours, not practicing the pauses, until my body gave out on me again because I wasn't far enough along the healing process. So boundaries around, so when in developing business strategies, what is a pacing for each individual that will work for them for growth?
That is interesting. Makes me think. Because you know what I mean? Like, I'm proud of myself for giving people boundaries in like how they talk to me, or boundaries in,
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't do phone calls before 8 a.m., unless it's my grandma, and it's an emergency.
Right. Yes.
Don't do, I'm not going to have you come over at my house at 9 o'clock at night. I need my time to just do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or like last night on Sundays, I do not work. I don't even want to talk about work. I will if it's, necessary to talk about it, but I won't have a meeting. I won't have a phone call. I won't, anyway. And then when I do find myself talking about it, I'll go, you know what, let's talk about that, in a couple days or whatever, and just focus
That's good.
like life and,
Yeah.
other things. And, yesterday I got like a voice text from a friend who I respect her very much. And I think that she's a hard worker. She's intelligent. She's got a lot going on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I know that our strength comes from asking for help. from other people. And so
Right.
doing is she was just reaching out to ask for help. So I didn't want to say, no, I'm not going to help you. But I did say, you know what, could you just email me a smaller version of that and I will address that tomorrow. I just don't,
Yes.
I don't work Sundays. And then she messaged me back, this is personal. And then I didn't even pay attention. I moved on with the day. And then
Yeah.
today I re-listened to it and I go, no, this is 100% business. Like all the stuff in here is about
Mhm.
scaling and where you're at with your staff and wanting to probably do like a pre-seed round and not understanding how to set up your receipts for your business to show people what they can fund, whatever. But anyway, so I'm
Mhm.
really proud of myself for at least with some time doing that. And then yeah, so that gives me
Yeah, that's
ideas for boundaries, not just with like relationships and people, but also like your boundaries for what you do with your time to take care of yourself.
Yeah. I look at self-care as how you live your life is what I have learned to do.
And peace is
It's
a really good way to say it. Like I'm taking on a project, it's like I'm fundraising right now, a lot of
yes.
kind of schedule for like when am I not fundraising? Right now, it's just like whatever it takes. You know what I mean? Because for me, it's a
Mhm.
window of time for like 30 to 60 days maybe, and then it stops, and I'm not doing it anymore for quite
Yeah.
usually sometimes up to like 7 months. I'm not anymore, but yeah. So I just do whatever it takes. That I'm gonna have to sit down and like think about besides Sunday, but if
And
someone messages me and they want to invest, I still respond.
and some of us thrive on that whatever it takes because it can be a lot of fun just to go all in, and sometimes it's all worth it. And so it's monitoring based on the outcome. Some for every boundary there are times for exceptions, like you mentioned. So sometimes that business growth, like I can't think of the right word now, like a lurch for forward might be worth it, but you have to then make sure you're if you have health challenges, make sure you're planning for some rejuvenation period after. I actually run my business in seasons,
Yeah. That's
like development, launch, growth, take time and rejuvenate. Say like build in stabilization in there. So it's actually a season and then I align it with the actual seasons. So right now in Florida, it's hot. So it's a time for me too hot for me to be outside a lot. So it's a time for me to be in development and preparing to launch phase.
interesting. That's interesting. I will say that I'm pretty good at once we close like a close a raise, close a deal. Usually I'll go on vacation for like a couple of weeks.
Yes.
We have
Yeah.
that first week of takeover and getting the property manager like kind of set up, and
hmm
what and because we kind of have to let it sit for a minute too and see like what residents leave, like what challenges we end up finding out the end
Yeah.
that we didn't know, and I let them do that job. So
And that's a great example because everybody they're across the different industries, the different how we all function. It's a very unique decision on how to balance that. It can be more on a daily basis, more on a weekly, more on a longer term project basis. So it's what works best for each individual, not cookie cutter.
Simone, what would you say has been your biggest win?
um, some client transformations, definitely. It's just such a joy to work with individuals and to see their transformation and regain hope in some cases, and sometimes totally shift directions. For example, one individual I worked with, she had a sudden onset of things and she no longer could really do her job. So she had a lot of courage and in just realizing, hey, I'm more than my health. This doesn't define me. She built a new business that aligns very much with who she is as a person, and that doesn't require the same kind of hand facility and so forth. So it's really wonderful. Yeah. So and I look at peace and joy come from making space for it, and to see individuals be able to incorporate more of that in their lives.
That's awesome. So it's meaningful business, impactful business,
Yeah.
so it's like what we call ours, and it may be totally different, but we call ours a mission driven business. So
hmm
got some social impact as well as, making profits. So yeah, that's really
Yeah.
important to have. And I'm glad that you've had some success with it and you're going to continue
Mhm.
more success over time. I think that you started this business before that was like a trend. You know what I mean? So,
Yes. And the pandemic actually has I think in some of the good outcomes of the pandemic have been that from a technology perspective and mindset perspective, we have advanced as a society a decade and forward, perhaps. And what I mean by that is I've been virtual based since 2008, except for the period where I had the downtown shop, which I still was largely virtual unless I was doing hands-on training. So my clients have been all across the country, and I've had the experience for several years of building those intimate connections online. But now more people see how you can do that. And something I'm really excited about is there's so many individuals who aren't able to go out networking easily because between chemical sensitivities and pain and fatigue, or to be able to go experience things in another country. And I'm, or even like some theater and so forth. So I'm really hopeful and looking at the opportunity of more people collaborating together in different ways with technology to bring some of these kinds of events and activities to individuals who are living that kind of lifestyle, not out in society as much as the norm. And I think there's a lot that can be done there, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Without going into super detail, looking at a building now that's independent living. So trying to
Mm-hmm.
out of those people because of their they can't be exposed to certain things. They have to, how do they still get out, if you will? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Plays, interact with their grandkids, be able to, and you can do that online. So
Mm-hmm.
thinking about
Yeah.
like something either downstairs or something they can rent and go take to their dwelling, where it's like an iPad basically, or like a bigger center where they can interact with people that are not there kind of whenever they want.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits coming from it too.
Like I know my grandma, she's super cool. She's like 86 and she's got the whole phone figured out. So she can do FaceTime. She can do, I taught her Zoom recently via the phone because she doesn't like a computer.
Yeah.
But most people are not like that. So having
Yeah.
a screen and something like that, but being able to utilize, Zoom or video is awesome.
Yeah, my mom's turning 90 and she's great with emojis. And it's always good to be able to FaceTime and so forth. Yeah.
Well, Simone, it looks like we both have very meaningful work. I'm really, really, really happy to have you on here because not every entrepreneur does have more in mind than just like there's just the capital part of their business.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's some kind of mess they've been through that makes their message for their business, but not always. So I'm just really
Right.
have you on here and have other women and men who are listening to the show listen to how I mean, people get confused. Like it's not a nonprofit organization. It's for purpose, So I'm glad to have another entrepreneur on here who's kind of on the back end of having really good traction to show people that it does work, that you
Yes.
people work and you can also have a balanced life. You just have to put that as your priority.
Exactly.
Simone, how can our audience get a hold of you if they want to work with you or if they'd like more information?
Yes, they can simply go to my website at simoneg.net or balanceupcommunity.com will also take you to that site. And if anybody's interested, I mentioned how building my own dream team, how much that changed my life. I have a handout with 5 simple steps to begin building your own dream team, and you can get that at balanceupyourdreamteam.com.
Very cool. Simone, thank you so much for coming on today and for your time. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to Number One Leading Ladies. Of course, as you know, we'll continue to add value and create more awesome content so that you know that you can do it too and watch women uplift each other while we're doing it. Thank you all for coming on today, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Kaylee.